Hello everybody, I just want to do a quick little video. That really matter. Um, so if I really don't think in the long run, really, I need to be doing much of any of these things. However, talking and stuff does give people a better sense of who I am, and and they just get to hear me talk and hear my demeanor and get to know me better. So whenever there's something to talk about, I'll talk about those things. But so what I wanted to talk about just now is for instance, my hair color and what I'm doing towards that. I'd also like to talk about my art, I guess, my plans, coming to my art, that kind of thing. So, I made tiles for a long time. I have lots of tile molds. Can always be making tiles. My phone's rebooting, so it's got some old messages coming through. Okay, so so artists many times are evolving creatures. They're trying new things. They're kind of their own bosses in many ways, and they're trying their own things. And I can only really speak for myself, but I'm somebody who really, let's say I end up liking somebody, and they're an artist of some sort, and I like them at some point in their life for who they are at that moment, and I guess I just know them forever at that moment. And then let's say that person then experiments with her art, and just goes through artistic swings in her mood swing. I don't want to call them mood swings, but they can be. There can be an element of a mood swing involved with it, but there's that foundation that person always has that's with them. So what I'm saying is, I've been dyeing my hair now. I've started doing these paintings, and so you see me doing all these different things. And some people have thrown out some of these words like identity crisis, and they've thrown out some things on social media. People have even lately have been, you always hear this. They kind of question whether or not social media, is even good for them or me or anybody. So what I want to say is that I view social media as the next version of the written word. The post office, how we went from being able to mail letters to the new invention of the car, the telephone, all these things. The way I look at it is this business and technology in the world progresses. So if you want to call it progresses. We're always looking for new things that are going to make things faster and more convenient and easier on us in many ways. So that's what the car did, the telephone, the written word. It all allowed us to advance ourselves in whatever form. Cavemen could write letters, could communicate different things with the written word at some point, and that helped speed some things up. Maybe how to get food and passing word of enemies on the move, things of that nature. Telephone, speeding things up. Cars, speeding things up. Social media, speeding things up. So the whole notion of the whole world is in this. We want things faster always. So social media is here to stay, and it's the new form of technology that's going to be the most accepted, kind of widely used form. There'll be versions of it, but it's here to stay, and this is the way we're going to be communicating in the future in some sense. It might not be on Facebook necessarily. It might be AT&T's own version of Facebook on some kind of phone they create that has a whole new program that deals with communicating. So the only way that could ever stop is if somehow everything was like destroyed in the world, all the economies and the industry, and we had to start from scratch because we're this machine. The world is, and with progress and development. And yes, we're trying to make things cleaner, but we're still this machine that's trying to progress forward. And that's why it's obvious that social media is not going to vanish. And you're not going to just, I mean, you could, but you're not going to just stop using social media. You can say that out of frustration, maybe, and maybe you won't go on it for a day or two. But I think for most people, we're all going to be using social media as long as that's the fastest and the easiest way to communicate. That's what we'll be using. So what I'm saying is so I've been dyeing my hair. I went and spent some time in Pennsylvania. I've been doing paintings. I went to Norway. So artists. Many times artists go through decisions. They decide they want to change things a little bit. I think they probably did that a little bit more years ago, because artists, I don't think years ago were as concerned about money as we are now, and that's important because for an artist to stop their business now, if it's a growing business, it's much more detrimental on the business now, in the short term, when an artist decides to do some kind of change in their art. It's much more detrimental on their business now than it was years ago, I would guess. Because years ago, artists were paid in different ways, and that's my observation of it. So when I was doing my tiles for 15 years, 17 years, and my business grew every single year, and I started having employees, and I started to see how it changed my art, and how the busier it got, the less art I could do, the more orders I had to take. So the design work, what started the business, became set on the back burner while I tended to more sales, production of more of the designs we already had. And I already have lots and lots of designs, hundreds of designs, much more than any of the other tile artists I've seen. So, I had a comfort level to do that, to not have to worry about the art for a while. However, you're as an artist, your soul, the reason why you do it, after a few years go by of not really tending to that part of your business that got it going, the passion for the design work, the carving of the designs, the experimenting with glazes. When as an artist, as you stop, at least for me, when I stopped doing that, as much of that, over a couple years, something in you, the spark that you have kind of gets a little bit cooler. It gets kind of doesn't burn out. It just kind of the embers don't glow as bright, and you can feel this, and you can sense that you're not doing that passion kind of art that you're doing when you started business. Like I said, I was tending to more orders. I was tending to the website, which is now mandatory. So you have to fill orders on a website. And as an artist, like I am, you can't just. The website has to be this tool for production. I can't just have the tile on the website and then when someone buys one, goes and pull it out of a box and then sell it, because I have 800 designs. I can't have 800 tiles sitting in boxes waiting to be sold, and I can't sit there and update the website every single day. The tile sells. It takes that. It's not time effective. But the business kept growing, and that's where it led me to. And so what I'm saying is so artists through the years always go through many many. I don't even want to call them transformations, because for most people who aren't artists, when they hear that, it might sound really emotional. It might sound kind of kind of unstable. It might kind of sound unstable. That kind of, I don't know. Probably not many people even think about it much at all. But as an artist, you do see how people react to things, especially now with social media, and you display the changes in your medium and in what's inspiring you. So when you show that, and people are used to having it being one thing, and then in my case, I'm also dealing with Norway at the same time and a couple other things at the same time. It can seem kind of like it might appear kind of like a kind of I might appear like this kind of this, things are kind of turbulent. Maybe I wouldn't even call it, but for me it's not. This is just because I'm always I know what I'm going to be doing next, kind of. So there's this stability to it, but it's also kind of a learning process. So that's kind of the excitement for an artist to take on a new medium. For instance, I don't have many examples, but I know that many painters, the Munch in Norway, if you look at all of his different styles he went through the years, he had several changes in what he painted, and every time an artist does that, it's like starting over again, because then you start this new body of work that represents this new kind of concept that you're trying to capture, and in many ways it's like a musical artist, a pop star, he or she creates a new album, and then they go on tour for a while, and then there's a need for the next album. So again, it's this whole like almost like a birth and a death, and it happens with artists. So with me being a tile artist, having grown up at a pottery and had ceramics in my life my whole life, and going to a public school and going to a Christian college, being a basketball player in college. So all these things really were in a way they're kind of seeing that I was born basically in an artist mentality. Each one of these things that I went through, going to law school, in a way it's kind of like was a something new, a new. It was like a new beginning of a new kind of art that I was kind of maybe discovering. Even you could look at basketball that way, just like how you can look at fishing as an art form. Art is this thing that is, it's a creative process, and however you want to see it. It can be sports, it can be lots of things. So when you become the artist, I don't know. Maybe when you start making money, I'm not sure exactly. When you publicly display your work so people can see you as being an artist. So I want to get the point I want to get at here is this notion of identity as an artist. So it's like identity really becomes this lucid thing when you're an artist, and I think part of what I'm not going to say that I'm struggling with, because I'm not struggling. But part of what I have to deal with is how most people who aren't artists and people who don't go through these changes, and women, for instance, I know many times they're always changing their looks, their clothing, their hairstyles. So maybe this is something more commonly understood with women. Maybe men too. I think maybe happens less with men. But for instance, for me to change to start to color my hair and things of that nature for fun, basically, and then some people will view it as an identity crisis. Other people could view it as finally life has some freedom. But it doesn't matter either way. I have to deal with my own life, no matter what people think of it, or that know me or don't know me. So, and of course, this is going to probably boil down to this notion of me having a girlfriend or a companion or someone who I can relate with or in some way, and how that could ever take form now that we have social media. So, I have this here, this red hair color in my hair, which I tried to get a few days ago, but I didn't do it have the right color. Now it really did what I wanted it to do. This is just something fun I did. So what is, again? And this is kind of a thing as an artist. I'm trying to, I'm you know, I'm in many ways I'm this practical person that wants to be efficient. But art and more like the excitement and joy of art is something that has less to do with efficiency. However, we have to make a living. We have to have money. So I have a business in a way. It's still different than it was before, but because I'm doing painting now, but I still have my business is still operating, and I'm helping in ways to keep the operation going, creating more tiles. But I'm planning on coming back to the tile work, doing paintings right now, which is really fun. My mom did paintings, so it's a kind of way of learning a new medium, experimenting as an artist, doing something different and new. Something that a lot of artists don't really have a chance to do much of because they become so dedicated to their business they can't ever break free from that. So in many ways, it's very valuable that I'm doing this, learning a whole new medium that I've never really experimented with painting. But I kind of have though because my tiles are paintings. But this is more. But my tiles, you can't see how the colors look like until they're finished. So in a way, I've almost been practicing for years to get to this point to do these paintings because now I can have even more control with color. Because before I had very little control with color. My imagination had to control the color when I applied the glazes and just imagined what it was going to look like when it came out of the kiln because I couldn't see it until it was out of the kiln. And after doing it over and over and over again, I had good control over making the colors how I wanted them to be, even creating my own glazes. So in saying all that, so in getting in relationships and meeting people and forming new friendships, there's a process involved in doing that. Always, just dealing with people in general is what we're doing, at a more personal level though. And so my whole life basically, for the most part, my mom basically bought my clothing. I'd buy my clothing occasionally, but when your mom's buying you clothing, and it's given to you, I mean, you can't kick a gift horse in the mouth. You know the old saying. So you get clothing, and my mom would always give me a variety of kind of clothing. Some of it I would wear all the time. Some of it was kind of more, I guess I would consider it maybe not my style. However, when I was a kid, when I was really little, I pretty much just wore everything. And then then you kind of, things are more popular than other things, and things are more comfortable, and then you kind of adjust, right? And then there's always the times where you just go out and buy your own stuff. Like I just bought a pair of shorts at Meijer's for going to work out because my other stuff is in my car in Pennsylvania. So what I'm saying is as an artist, and for me being like a kind of professional artist, I'm a professional artist, and full time. So I think I really. This is one of these things that you think about. I think about. I really think that I need to be with someone. If I'm going to think about that at all, the person I would be with and someday would be someone I think would be artistic and deal with art in her life too in some way. Now, I'm not saying that's the only possibility. I'm just thinking that I am definitely need art. That's my business. That's what I'm going to be doing. So someone has to really have appreciation for what it is I do if they're going to want to be with me. Doesn't mean they have a degree in art. Doesn't mean they go to all kinds of art museums and know all the different famous paintings. Doesn't mean any of that kind of thing. It doesn't mean any of that at all. It just means a general sense of like curiosity with the art, with any kind of art. Someone who might, I don't want to say too much here, but it's just I need someone into the arts in some way. So then the question kind of comes up, or then you start thinking about. I'm dyeing my hair, and I ask myself the question: who am I doing this for? Why am I doing this? In one hand, like I said, it's fun to do this because I've never felt like I had the interest to do it. I guess not that the catalyst to create the interest, that part of me that decided to do this has always been with me. That experimental kind of fun side of me, decided to do the hair color. Somebody else or something else was a catalyst that got that going again. So that's how I can describe why I did the hair color thing. Now with communicating over social media, this is not like sitting down in a classroom and having a teacher kind of guide us to what to do in the same way on a one-on-one kind of level. This social media now, we communicate in many ways, not directly, but we communicate. And what let me get to the point here and finish this. 'Cause I'm gonna go to work out. But the point I'm trying to get is like someday, if I'm spending my time with one person, or most likely with one person, do I need a style? If my mom bought my clothing my whole life, and if I were to say that right now, my mom would probably say, "No, I didn't. I didn't buy your clothing your whole life." And she's right, but she also did buy my clothing a lot growing up. And my style really was created through that. Deciding what of the things that she got me I liked. And I got to pick out my own special things when I was a kid. My ski jackets, my skis, cool kind of clothes when I went to college, Abercrombie and Finch kind of thing. So I've had my phases of my own. My mom has been a part of helping me get clothing. So what am I saying? So what I'm saying is like, since I've never really been in like in a relationship very. I can't really say I've been in a relationship where I'm like going out as a couple with somebody and just being a couple and being out in the world like that. So what I'm saying is like, is if I was with somebody who was like an artist and who was really kind of creative and had a style of her own and had a following of her own and had a excitement that she created on her own. The question that, and these are things that I think about, and I feel like if I can't talk about them, then we have to go through this process of trial and error to get to that point. And it can be very turbulent and kind of unpleasant to go through this trial and error process. And many times misinterpretations can happen, misunderstandings, and it can be a time wasting kind of process as well. So I think when I talk about it, then you can have a better sense of how my views are on it. We can still go through the process, but maybe it'll be easier if I talk about it, because then we can get to the point. Maybe a little bit faster. Maybe it'll be we'll be more efficient, and even end up with a better finished product this way if I talk about it. So if I were to be with somebody that was very artistic and very colorful, what goes through my mind is at what level would I take away from her, or at what level would I take away from her if I'm also trying to be an artist and to be a fashion being someone who is conscious of my style. Would I? I'm someone that I'm someone that I know how to get people's attention. I guess you'd say. So I know how to like maneuver a little bit in that realm myself without having any help. I don't have lots and lots of money to buy all kinds of amazing pieces of clothing, but I could create it all on my own, and I know if I really wanted to, I've been doing paintings and tiles for years, and I've seen what colors people like, and I've created my own kind of style with those colors. So I could easily be hired by a fashion company, and that person, if that person wanted to use me, they could totally tell me to work with their designers, and I could totally use my color palette with the glazes I've used through the years, all the different colors, and how I kind of applied them with the different designs I have, and it could totally be kind of transferred into a new style line for a clothing company. Just what I've learned on my own through the years. I could do it myself, but that would take lots of time, so I don't. So to have a team do that, it's a possibility. I mean that's and I'm just saying that because I know that I have a style of my own that I've created, that I can sit down and glaze tiles. Even though I haven't been glazing tiles in a few months, basically, I could sit down and just start glazing them, and it wouldn't take very long at all, and I would be right back into it. I really would be back into it right off the bat. It wouldn't take very long at all. Maybe I would just have to make sure I knew what all glazes were in the buckets. But I still have that feel for how much glaze I need to put on the tiles, and I have a feel for all the technical parts of doing the work. So, and like I said before, it's coming with the painting that I'm doing. Like all the years of glazing tiles was really preparing me for this painting. Precision. Huh. Wow. My tongue's dry. Precision. To get those colors in these paintings really perfect, mixing paints together. Mixing paints together. Having done it for years and years and years using glazes that aren't the colors that you actually see in the finished version, I've had to basically guess. My imagination has had to tell me, along with practice and learning the colors. I've had to like blend and make things look how I wanted them to look, and I can't see the results until they come out of the kiln. So that's a trial and error process that it's like a macro way of. It's like a way of learning how to do art and making colors appear to resemble something without having. It's like doing it blindfolded, kind of. So now that I'm using these watercolors that are just right there, the colors are just right there. It's like it's how it is. And so I have instant gratification. I know exactly what color it's going to be instantly. So I can instantly add colors and make paintings, and I haven't gone to. I've been teaching so it's easy for me to blend colors. The hardest part is just figuring out with the watercolor paints just how thick you want it, kind of a thing, and really keeping the brushes clean. If the water's dirty, you can't just. It's just the purity is the hardest part with the watercolor painting. Just keeping the paints pure without having to get the colors all because speed is a part of it. I don't want to take all day. I want to get more of these paintings done because the more I can create, then the more of the story I can tell, and then we'll move along faster that way. The more paintings I can do, then the more of the story I can tell and capture, and we'll move along faster that way. So that's why I also think that the fact that I do paintings a little bit faster, and I don't want to sit there and make everything so perfect, is a valuable kind of characteristic, and I've learned that through having my business and needing to make lots of tiles to make lots of money. You have to tell yourself you have to stop at some point, and it's done. You're finished, and you can't. You could sit there and go on and on and on, but you have to stop, and that's just something you learn because you have to be efficient in production. You learn what your level of that needs to be in order to keep your business growing, and this takes years to figure that out. That's a huge thing, a huge valuable aspect of my understanding of business and art that takes. And I was successful at it because I made $500,000 making tiles in 2017, which is probably more than any artist made in Michigan that year. So so I know, and I learned that because I grew up at a pottery. I saw my dad how he made lots of pots. So I just know this. I just know several steps that are necessary to be successful at this. And I'm applying it to my artwork. So let me get back to the point here, to the paintings now. So let me get back to the point here about my image and being involved with other artists and people who have an image too, and how that can clash and how that can be a struggle. Maybe it's all about positivity and how well you communicate your needs, I guess, to somebody else, and how well I receive that moving forward, and not getting upset or something. So the idea is, and this is what I'm thinking about. So I've been doing these things like coloring my hair and stuff, and trying on different kinds of clothes that I had no reason to do that kind of thing before. Not that I wouldn't have done it, but I had no reason to do it, and why, and the reasons why I decided to do it are kind of complicated to explain. But now that we have social media, these things happen. When you're pursuing something, and you have people that give you feedback, and then people get involved in your story and your life, and it's just, people give you ideas, and you do these ideas because you're moving, because everyone's kind of, we're all trying to get to places that we're trying to go, and social media is one way that has helped. That, as an artist myself, my interaction with my people on social media helped me get to that point. It's hard to explain. So I'm doing things like dyeing my hair, and this I didn't wake up one morning and to tell myself, oh, I want to dye my hair red, or I didn't wake up one morning and see someone that I thought was popular on social media, or forget social media. I didn't walk down the grocery store aisle and see some tabloid and see someone with a hairstyle that I wanted to try. That isn't what I do. I've had my own hairstyle forever. So, but at the same time, I've been single forever, basically, and I have never been in a relationship that I feel ever was a real relationship with anybody. And then when I say that, though, it's like, okay, what is a real relationship? Because if you ever found what a real relationship was, wouldn't then you still be with that person unless they died or something tragic happened? So when I say that, I also know it's kind of like there's a word what that is. It's kind of like a play on. It's not a pun, but I mean, if I had found that person in a relationship by now, then we would probably be happy together, and then we would be together still. So I wouldn't even be talking about it. So, but I haven't found that person. So, but I feel like I can't do nothing to find that person. I have to now try. I was living up in Sutton's Bay, and it was just obvious that I wasn't going to be with someone up there. So I have to look elsewhere. We have social media now. So then how do you try to find that person? Well, maybe that person will find me. Maybe I'll find that person. Maybe it'll happen while I'm doing both of those things. It'll just happen, right? It can happen anytime. It can happen when I'm doing both of those things. So it can happen at any second. But at the same time, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with experimenting and trying to make it happen, to putting the idea out there, purposely. Not that my tile work wasn't doing that already, but let's just say I wanted to start doing paintings of something that I wasn't even selling. Like I'm doing paintings now. Before I was selling all my tiles. Well, these paintings I'm not selling at all. So what, so this is a new kind of attempt for me putting myself out there that can bring interest to me. That can, like I said, inevitably, I would hope I'm working towards something that I'm not just trying to make money for nothing. There's there is a somewhat of a loosely formed idea of my future in my head, even though it's like, if it hopefully is with somebody else, it would adapt to someone else's ideas as well. So what I'm saying is, so there's this concern that I have, and it's evolving because I'm trying these new things. So I try something new because maybe I see someone else doing that, or maybe because I want to try it because I want to try it. And now I see the reaction on social media, how that reaction is how there's a reaction maybe, or when I'm walking in the grocery store, how people react to it. Okay, so I'm a visual artist. I do paintings. I do tiles. I think I was telling someone about how you can have an abstract kind of view of this as me being underground, or I don't have a voice. Because I don't have a voice because my voice is kind of in my tiles, in my carvings, in my paintings. That's my voice. So, and then I think of myself, okay, what if I was a telephone? What if I worked for the telephone company? Then what's his voice? So then I feel kind of like, but I'm an artist, and I chose to be an artist, and I made many sacrifices choosing to be an artist, and I didn't even know what those sacrifices were when I chose to be an artist. So I feel like it's all fair and square. A person from the telephone company gets a salary. Many of those types of people get married when they're quite younger than I am. And then they get to have things in life that I don't necessarily to have as an artist, because I have to build myself up from nothing, and it's a different process. So what I'm saying is that now that I'm trying these different things to see how they when I'm expanding my views on my interests, showing people that I'm capable of doing new things, which has happened because I've started doing paintings, and for many reasons, I'm conscious of the fact that if I'm attracted to another artist, it doesn't have to be a tile artist, it doesn't have to be a potter or a ceramic artist. It can be any kind of artist, and right now I'm thinking about how I could, and I want people to know that I'm thinking about this, because I think it will help. That I am also concerned about possibly clashing, or possibly bringing attention to me in some way. Because as an artist, you're trying to capture people's attention. And any artist wants to be popular, so they want to get as much attention as possible to them. So how, as an artist, and if I'm with another artist, how do two artists together kind of bring the attention to both of them at the same time? Let's say one of them is a more popular artist than the other artist, but they might do two different types of artwork. So how does that affect how does that affect the big picture for those two people? And some people will say, well, it should just happen naturally, and you shouldn't have to think this hard about it. I disagree, because so many times then people get divorces and things like that, and And those are the things that they thought when they were first together, that it just happened so naturally. We just knew we were meant to be. But then 10, 20 years down the road, it didn't work. So I just want to put this out here because I don't like doing things and seeing the reactions on social media visually. I like doing that, but I don't like people to really know what I'm thinking because then it's a guessing game. And part of it will always be a guessing game, but I think it makes it easier to get, because we're all trying to get somewhere, and I think the faster we get to where we want to go, then we can get to the next place, and then we can get to the next place, and then we can get, in the end we'll get to a lot more places if we can be just a little bit more efficient. So I think that by me being more verbal about my thoughts on this stuff is just going to be a way of being more efficient and getting to places more efficiently, and that's my hope for doing this. So what I'm saying is I'm conscious of this whole idea that I could possibly clash or draw too much attention, but in saying that, someone would say, well, you want to get the attention to you. You want to bring the attention to you. Yeah, you're right. You're right, but there comes a time where you just decide that, it doesn't need to be all 100% about you. It doesn't need to be all about me. If someone else has some bigger gig going that's got more momentum and more, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that being the priority. Of course, that's going to be the way that it is. I mean, do I stop doing what I do that I enjoy doing, these paintings and things? Do I stop doing that? No, I don't do that. I wouldn't decide to do that. If someone starts telling me not to do that, that's probably obviously isn't the person I want to be with. But I think it's important for people to know that do I want to start experimenting with my hairstyles? Do I want to imagine myself being with someone else in public and worrying about, I think Oprah. I think of other people that have husbands and wives that are. I mean, most celebrities have husbands and wives that are kind of, you don't know much about who their husbands and wives are, and that's fine. But so all that I'm saying is this thing that I'm doing with my hair and my paintings, as much as I like to incorporate other people into what it is I'm doing, I also, I know that I can go either way with certain things. I could create my own style of my hair, my clothing. If I had all kinds of money, I could buy all kinds. I could buy exactly the clothing that I want. I'm so tall; it's even hard to find clothing, let alone find it in my size just at a store in a local town. I have to order it. So I could wake up every morning. I could have this style that was the most important part of who I am. This visual style of me. Or I could have this style of my paint, or I could put the emphasis on my artwork. And personally, I'd rather put my whole style emphasis on my artwork, my paintings maybe, or maybe sculptures or tiles or whatever it is I end up doing, or the variety of things that I end up doing. Personally, I think my style really should be there, not in my. I'm not a designer. I'm not a pop star. I'm not, I did grow up with two parents that were both artists, trying to be artists together. They didn't really do that in the end at all. I've seen many artists at art fairs that have this husband-wife team thing going on. I never did that with my tiles. I don't need to make my art with somebody else. So I'm not concerned about matching somebody's style. Like, for instance, this kind of thing. I don't need to do it just like somebody else. I don't need to do this at all. So when I bought the cowboy hats and the cowboy boots, you know, I like wearing my cowboy hat. I don't need to worry about my hairstyle then. You know, Mark Zuckerberg, he wanted to wear white shirts, and he wanted to wear one type of clothing all the time because he thought that by doing that it saves his brain power because he's not worried. That's one part of his head is doesn't have to think about. And I agree. And then his energy can go towards something else. So in moving forward and everyone interpreting what it is I'm doing, I'll just see what happens with my hair. I'll see. I'm not gonna do much more than this. I'm gonna let my hair grow out some. We'll see. But I'm not really thinking much about having some great hairstyle, other than kind of like just a basic hairstyle that I've had. And the playing around with the color of my hair is something I'm just playing around with. And I am conscious of the whole idea of I don't want to be in any kind of battle, style wise, with anybody. I'm in a league of my own to begin with, being so tall. I'm not trying to win over anyone's style. So that's all that I want to say. I think I'm really basically I'm just pretty simple kind of. When it comes to that, I'm simple. But when it comes to my paintings, I really want to get that really stylized, my own style created. So I just want to say that so that everyone knows where I'm coming from when they see me doing this hair stuff. I'm following people that I admire and that I find interesting on Facebook and Instagram, and many of these people are interactive with their fans. So I like to try interacting with them as well. So I'm interacting with fans with some of these stars, like Taylor Swift's some of the groups that follow her and that support her, have a way of interacting with their fan base in a personal way, and they encourage things like now this month is Pride Month for lesbian, gay, transgender people. So there's want people to help them with that cause, and one of the ways of doing that is to show colors, rainbow colors, and doing things like dyeing your hair. So I'm showing support of that by doing that. And I'm not trying to become this style king when it comes to my clothing or hair color, hair. I would be a model if someone wanted me to model clothing and stuff, but I'm not interested in being the any kind of clothing style person. I could do artwork if someone wanted me to do that. Like I said before, with my ability to make colors and to use my style and my colors. So that's what I want to talk about, and I'm glad I got that off my mind. And now you guys have a better sense of where I'm coming from with my new hair experiments. I'm basically just having fun and showing people that I'm capable of doing and having being interested in having fun with style. So that's what I want people to see, that I have the interest in that too.